All right, viewers. Well, that was something. Misha Mengelberg, played by Benjamin Herman Trio, featuring Oscar de Jong. Jan, I'm sorry. Um, what a beautiful set and what a beautiful night. I'm very happy that you guys are still looking, and we're going to have a very good conversation on Amsterdam. And there he is, Benjamin.
Hello!
Fresh from stage.
Nice to hear you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're having fun.
Yes.
Oh my God.
All right, I'll give you some time just to
No,
acclimatize.
I'm fine. Okay,
okay.
good.
So, we had a previous conversation with your colleagues, Santa, where you played a beautiful set as one of the drummers, and obviously Benjamin just came straight running from stage. We spoke about a lot of Amsterdam, the Dutch music scene, but also a lot of social justice issues. But I actually want to touch base with you guys on that route to Amsterdam or to Holland, mostly. And Amsterdam or the Dutch music scene or the Dutch jazz scene, as you call it, embraces a sort of freedom, sort of cosmopolitan character, which we kind of characterized at in the previous talk. Sun-Mi, you have a very special story about Amsterdam and coming from Korea to Amsterdam, actually. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I think a lot of, or a small portion of people in the Netherlands saw little documentary that we were part of. And yeah, very long story for like 13 years, but short. I started playing drums in church. I saw first time the drummer playing in church. So there was...
This was in Korea.
Yeah, that was in Korea. So I was 12 years old, and I saw the drummer playing in front, in the church, and I fell in love once. So I couldn't hear anything else, and then I could hear only drum sound. So that was my hook, and then since then, I tried to make my parents understand that I wanted to play drums for 5 years, and it took some years to start to play drums, of course. And I went to drum academy in the beginning, which there was a metal drummer who plays as a hobby. And he was like, hey, welcome. Okay, you're going to play on a tire. Poor tire, poor wheel. So I was practicing and learning some skills for 1 hour. And I'm like, okay, this is my thing. I love it. I'm going to stay here for 4 hours. And then I played the same thing over and over for 4 hours. And that was my first day playing drums. And then since then, I wanted to apply for conservatory in Korea, in pop department, and then I got in after playing 1 year of preparation. And after that, I wanted to learn jazz because I was wondering about freedom on drums, basically, because I was playing mostly pop music, which nothing wrong with that, but I could only play something I only practiced. So with the metronome from 60, 62, 64, 66 until wherever you want to go for one lick. And then you have to kind of use it because you practice so many hours. So, and then I was just sick of it, and I thought I have to find something else. And then I saw on YouTube Brian Blade playing with Joshua Redman. I thought this is what I want to do. So I quit conservatory. And then I was asking around people like, hey, I want to be like that, be like him. Where can I go? And they said, you have to learn jazz, how to play jazz. So I quit the school after 1 year. And I was wondering about who can teach me jazz. And I met a teacher who can teach me. So after like 6 months to 1 year playing jazz, I was in love again with the jazz. So this is my way. So I'm gonna look for jazz school. And then back then, so 10 years ago, there was no jazz school in Korea. Only one exists. So I tried to look outside of Korea, and then of course, Conservatoire van Amsterdam was one of the best school that I could find. That was my journey.
Wow. So you kind of broke free from your Korean references to come to Amsterdam? I mean, did you know anything about Amsterdam before coming here?
To be honest, no, nothing. I didn't speak English at all. So I had to memorize all the questions that they're gonna ask, teachers gonna ask me. So I was like all night just memorizing what they're gonna ask, possibly. And my mom was teaching from newspaper. She was like looking for English sentences, and she handed in, with a paper that she wrote in English. So like Konglish, we say, like how you pronounce English in Korean. So she wrote me, and then she gave it to me. So I didn't know anything. Basically.
It's an amazing story that you faked your English. If they would have asked something different, you would have like.
Yeah, exactly. I would say yes. Probably.
So how did Amsterdam influence you? I mean, there's a clear story of breaking away and then coming to Amsterdam, to this free place. How did that influence your drumming?
A lot. When I came here, of course, first of all, I didn't search anything about Netherlands in general. So I didn't know about the language, the culture, or people, or, like you could research it before. But for me, there was only one reason that I wanted to come was for jazz. So I was a stupid and very simple young girl, just decided to come here only for that. So it was really shocking on the first day came into school, like cheek kisses and just to say hi to teachers. It was all shocking for me, actually. And I thought, okay, if I stay as I am right now, I'm not going to be able to learn anything, because I'm just shocked for every second thing that I see. From every second thing that I see, I have to somehow change. But how do I change? First of all, I don't understand anything. So I was recording when we were hanging with the friends, or recording all the classes that I was in. So that's how I learned English. Of course, I didn't understand at the moment, but I brought it back home where I lived, and I was practicing English and tried to find what that meant with my friend who spoke a little better than me. And yeah, just it was a shocking every day, like didn't understand. I was confused. I was very tired after 2 classes, and then I was crashed at home, and next day starting same thing. And I realized this is not what I have to do, and then I was looking for role models, how I want to become, like who I like to be with and who I like to become in this country. So I met a lot of people from all over the world, of course, and there were really a lot of people who helped me to develop as I am right now. So yeah, all kinds of small level. For me, it was a big step. But if I think now, of course, it was just nothing that I just faced, like what it was. And then, because I was also young, I was brave, I guess. Yeah.
Wow,
And
that's an incredible story. I mean, just finding your own path, coming to Amsterdam, doing something new. I mean, it's kind of Mengelbergish, right, Benjamin?
Well, finding your own path certainly is, but going abroad and going somewhere you don't speak language, you don't know anybody, and I don't know, it must be very strange. But that's the fun thing about jazz music, is that you can improvise. We learn to improvise, and once you're handy in that, you can work yourself out of all kinds of situations, and everybody will like you, which is good fun, That's what, if you talk about Mengelberg.
Well, I mean,
we got to.
Well, it's breaking away. I mean, Mengelberg broke away from the American jazz tradition, so to speak. Incorporating elements of very flinty improvisation and humor and stuff like that. I mean, is he one of the founders of this Dutch jazz style? Maybe is there something like that?
Well, there is. I mean, he was definitely someone who decided to do it differently. I mean, there still are a lot of great players in Holland, you know, straight ahead players. And when he was a young man in the 50s, there were a lot of great players too. Great piano players like Rob Matna, and there's loads of too many to mention. And Misha just decided, well, this is not going to work for me because I'm from a family in the southern part of Amsterdam, and his uncle was a conductor. His father was a conductor. His uncle was a composer, and they all came from classical backgrounds and stuff. So he had a lot of musical knowledge, but his greatest passion was Thelonious Monk. And when he'd been studying, I think a couple of records, 2 records, the red one and the blue one, he always said, you know, the first Blue Note Thelonious Monk albums. He'd done that, and then he decided to move on and make his own, start his own group and develop his own style. A very interesting piano player. I mean, people who are more into the improv scene, they will know him, and people in New York will as well. In the downtown scene, he recorded with Joey Barron, and for John Zorn's label as well, and done lots of collaborations with all kinds of people in the 70s and the 60s.
So what made would you say that, you know, his way of improvising and his approach to, well, the American tradition, like kind of getting loose of it, like what Willem Breuker did, and you know, Misha Mengelberg, Han Benning. Is that the foundation to that color, you think?
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. I mean, because it was something that was happening all over Europe. People were trying to figure out their identity, but not only in Europe. It was also in Asia. You know, I don't know too much about the Korean history, but I know in Japan, you know, there was a whole movement as well. Everybody was freeing themselves and using their own backgrounds and trying different stuff. But Misha Mengelberg and Han Benning and Willem Breuker were definitely the best in Holland doing that. They were like, that was, if you want a reference, you know, you got to find them, and they'll be playing, there's all kinds of stuff they would be playing with, like Eric Dolphy, you know, he'd come to Holland, and then they back Eric Dolphy, or all kinds of other kind of people. It was an interesting time, and Misha and Han and Willem Breuker, they deliberately started doing different stuff to irritate other musicians as well, you know, straight ahead players. They would have Piet Noordijk was one of Holland's most incredible alto players, a real natural player, incredible player, and you know, he couldn't stand being in that quartet at someone because they were throwing things at him during his solos. Han take a bag of peas, dried peas, and start throwing them at Pete to get him to play something else. So they were also into annoying other musicians and just shaking things about, you know, which I thought was very interesting.
How did that influence your playing and your characteristic sound? I mean, every time when I see you play, there's some joy on stage. You know, I mean, you walk around and you feel at home, and it's not like you're stuck to one thing and just concentrating or whatever. It's more.
Yeah, well, there's something which I realized at a certain moment being on stage as a saxophone player. You can walk around. And if we watch Sonny Rollins playing, you know, he's always trying out different places on the stage, seeing what it sounds like over there. What is it? You can connect with the drummer if I stand there. You know. And sometimes I used to get pretty, when I was young, you know, get so nervous that you just
freeze up.
Yeah, you freeze, and you stand there on the stage, and then you finish with your solo, and you're standing like, oh, fuck. What are these people looking at me? But I tell also young musicians, you know, just explore the room.
Yeah.
Explore the room.
So, I mean, obviously, you know, Ben, I mean, you're one of the forefront members of this Dutch jazz scene of you know, the names in Holland. I mean, you know, you play Mengelberg, you know a lot about the Dutch jazz history. I mean, what excites you about the Dutch jazz scene today?
Well, Sun-Mi, in the first place. I mean, she's in every band that is he's connecting with everybody
Yeah.
at the moment.
I agree.
And there's so many great young players. It's difficult to single out people, but I like to think, what Dizzy Gillespie said in his book To Be or Not to Bop. The future of jazz is mixing styles, and it's such a wonderful world we live in now with the internet, and it's everybody connects and everybody can be influenced by anything. And if you open your eyes as a musician, there's so much you can connect to. And you can also spend your whole life playing bebop, which is great, and it's good fun. That's the stuff I practice at home as well. But it's also nice to connect with someone from Korea, and see what she has to offer for the stuff that you're practicing. And if we talk about Amsterdam, that's also nice about the city of Amsterdam. It's that it attracts a lot of people. They used to come here to smoke, You can smoke all over the world now, apparently. But people would come here and just really enjoy the fact that everyone was relaxed and at ease. And there were lots of bars you could play at and lots of gigs all over the place. So, Amsterdam is an interesting place as far as that is concerned. I just hope Sun-Mi's not going to leave too soon, because a lot of people stay here for a while and then they move on to different places. Some of them go to the States. Some of them go back to their own countries. Some of them move on to a different scene.
Right. I mean, speaking about the States, New York. I mean, you've lived in New York for a short while, right?
I studied at the Manhattan School of Music. Yeah.
Right.
But I couldn't. I was there for a half year, and I was just. It's such a difficult city to live in as a musician.
Yeah.
It's really. I figured.
Didn't you get me working with New York musicians? The reason why they go to New York is just to get their ass kicked.
Yeah.
And was that the case with you guys?
I got my ass. It took like 5 years to heal when I came back. Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of people from Holland who've managed to stay there for a while, like Ben van Gelder, incredible alto player. He was there for 7 years. He's back now in Holland. I think he said in the 7 years he had one gig, the best paying gig he had was $100 in 7 years' time. And the big difference is, that's the way it goes over there. He had lots of good gigs, but none of them paid any money, so it's really difficult to survive. And in Holland, it's kind of relaxed because you can play in bars and you can play concerts, and if you stick around long enough, you develop an audience. And that's also the wonderful thing about jazz, is that if when you start off, your audience is very small, but if you hang in there and keep on making records, your audience builds. With pop music, they'll love you for 2 years, and then the audience will just move on to something else,
right?
Because then you're an old fart, moldy fig.
So Amsterdam has quite a strong jazz tradition, like New York, or
there's nothing like New York.
No,
there's
of course,
absolutely nothing like New York. We all know that, right?
No, of course. But I do see similarities, though. I mean, the international character, the cosmopolitan character, people coming here, the freeness that they try to taste in their music and take into their composition. I mean, do you agree, Sun-Mi?
Yeah, in that sense, it's very international, of course. And I think we have a slightly different mindset. I'm very careful saying anything about that. I mean, there's always, if there's a good side, there's also downside of it. You get to chill out a little bit more because you can get paid quite well for things that, that's why also they are kicking their ass off practicing and stuff in New York to be able to play in better venues and then try to be able to go on tour in Europe, so on. So there is a little similarity, but I think it's also quite different.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to go back for a sec to like, you know, the compositions of music. I always thought, like, you know, relating music or jazz music to, you know, this analogy of life and creating your own identity and looking for your own identity. Benjamin, you told me, you mentioned when we had this little pre-conversation on Zoom, you had this quote about on Mengelberg. It's about the result. Het gaat om het klinkend resultaat.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that? What do you mean?
Well, that's something which I remember Misha saying of one of his sayings. He had a lot of very wise words. He was a funny guy, very nice guy to hang with, and peculiar. But he would say, you know, people would get into all kinds of quarrels on stage or ego stuff or anything, you know, and him and Han would, as Han said it, you know, they would play with incredible assholes. Some people they played with were horrible.
Yeah.
And Misha was just like, well, his conclusion was the only thing that counts is the music. So if the music is good, that's what it's about, and that's what Han also says. You know, it's not, you know, if you're on tour and you have difficulties dealing with people, which happens sometimes. If you get good music out of it, that's worth the effort.
Right, right. So it's about the music language. I mean, was that the thing that was maybe the basis of, you know, coming to a new country for you, Sun-Mi, not knowing the language, not knowing anything, but music was your language?
Yeah, I believe so, and I believed so. So, yeah, it's something that I was comfortable and confident about was playing drums when I came here. So, of course, that was the only way to communicate with colleagues and teachers and audience, of course. So I still think talking is very difficult. Socializing is very difficult. But playing drums is really fun. And playing music is really fun. So, yeah.
All right. Well, we have 5 minutes left. All right.
Okay.
So, you know, these things go really fast. If I were to just sit in your car, Benjamin, what would I listen to right now?
I don't have a driver's license.
Oh, I'm sorry. If I would come and drink a cup of coffee at your house.
Well, I'd listen to all kinds of music. I have a podcast here. I don't think you can listen to it abroad, but I go from Jamaican music to free jazz to stock music, you know, the KPM 1000 library with British stuff in there. I love Fausto Papetti, you know. I love all kinds of music. Monk said that as well. I love all kinds of music. Someone asked him, do you like country and western? And he didn't answer. He said, I like all kinds of music. And then the guy said, yeah, but do you like country and western? And he said, is the guy deaf or something? Yeah, I agree with that answer. You know,
Yeah,
I like all kinds of music. Listen to all kinds of music. But one of the records which really brought tears to my eyes, my wife was under the shower and we have a sound system in the bathroom, and I put on Pharoah Sanders' new album.
With floating points in the London Symphony Orchestra.
Bloody yeah. If I'm thinking about it, I'm getting goosebumps again. That is so incredible. And I've seen Pharoah Sanders play a couple of times, and every time I'm like, just tears in my eyes.
Yeah.
And with this album, that's incredible. He's 80 now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible album. Well recommended. Listen to that album.
Sun-Mi, how about you? If I were to sit in your car or come for a cup of coffee.
License.
Okay. What is that?
Working
Jazz
on
musicians
it.
don't have driver's license, which is a good thing. It's green. Yeah, it's true. What are you listening to nowadays?
I'm not copying, but I also try to listen to all kinds of music. I'm the person who gets into one kind of music or one album that I don't try to listen anything else, and then I want to change my behavior, my way of listening. So these days, most of the time I get suggestion from people, so I can get new music. You know, so I would like to ask you, if you are about to have a coffee with me, what are you listening?
Mike's got a good taste as well. He knows loads
Yeah, I
of
know.
stuff. He knows. He's
Guys, I'm
into
interviewing
modern
today.
music.
I'm interviewing today. I'm not, All right. All right. So I'm going to close with a question I asked Fuensanta and Rafael, who's going to play with Smandem in just a few minutes. Jazz or Black American music, or I tend to call it Black American music. Jazz is a kind of complicated term. Is it the soup or one of your ingredients? And this is not my quote. This is Fuensanta's quote.
Is it the soup
The jazz.
or one of?
Yeah. Is jazz your soup or is it one of your ingredients?
Well, it's very simple for me. I play saxophone, and thanks to Charlie Parker, I can know my way around the horn because that was the only thing I was practicing for years and years.
Yeah.
Jazz is what it is, that's what comes out of this saxophone, whether it's distorted or weird or straight ahead. I mean, that's what it's influenced by all kind of stuff, but I'm a jazz musician.
It's your soup.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Sun-Mi?
I was thinking whole time when you were answering. It's really hard. I would say probably it's my cutleries.
Ah, right.
Smart
It's
answer.
it's the way to express myself.
Mhm.
So it's not soup which is ready, or it's not ingredients which is gonna be ready, individuals. It's just the way to express.
Wow. I think that's a great way to end. Benjamin, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mike.
for your
Thank you.
set. Thank you for your music and your talk. Sun-Mi, thank you for your music and talk. Guys, Smandem up next. Thank you very much.